All right, let's get into it. So many of us are looking for natural ways to handle stress, but it can be really tough to figure out what's real and what's just hype. So, in this explainer, we're going to take a really clear-eyed, scientific look at some of the most popular natural remedies out there. First things first, let's be clear on what stress even is. It's not some modern invention or a personal failing. It's actually a fundamental survival mechanism. Think of it as our body's ancient built-in alarm system. The trouble really starts when that alarm gets stuck in the on position. And let's be real, in our world today, it can feel like that alarm is just constantly blaring. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, trust me, you are so far from alone. This hunt for some kind of relief is something we're all going through together. And that's led to this huge surge of interest in natural options. But with all the choices out there, from herbal teas to all kinds of supplements, the big question is, what does the science actually say about how, or even if, these things work? Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out. Okay, we're going to kick things off with a really fascinating group of herbs called adaptogens. Now, the cool thing about them is their goal isn't just to calm you down or hype you up. It's to actually help your body get better at handling stress in the first place. So what exactly are these things? Well, adaptogens are plants that work by supporting something called the HPA axis. And that's just a fancy term for what you can think of as the command center for your body's stress response. It's literally the stress alarm system that decides when to pump out hormones like cortisol. Here's the best way to think about how they work. They're not like a simple on-off switch that would either knock you out or wire you. Nope. Adaptogens are much more like a smart thermostat. They kind of sense what your body needs and help gently nudge your stress response back into a healthy, balanced range. Now, this is what's so cool. Not all adaptogens do the same thing. On the one hand, you've got something like ashwagandha. Research shows it's more of a calming adaptogen. It actually lowers cortisol and boosts GABA. That's a calming chemical in your brain, which helps with stuff like anxiety and sleep. But then on the other hand, you've got rhodiola, which is more of an activating adaptogen. It's been shown to sharpen your thinking and fight fatigue when you're under stress. And look, this isn't just folklore. These herbs have been used for centuries, sure, but now they're getting put under the microscope of modern science. Researchers are digging in to figure out the exact chemical reasons why they have these powerful effects on our bodies. So, adaptogens are amazing for building that long-term resilience. But what about when you're feeling anxious and you need help like right now? Well, that's where another group of herbs comes into play, ones that are really focused on giving you that more immediate sense of calm. These are often known as nervines, and their main job is to give direct support to your nervous system. And they do that by influencing key brain chemicals, especially one you're going to hear a lot about called GABA. You can think of GABA as your brain's own natural brake pedal. And here are a few heavy hitters. You've probably heard of chamomile, right? It actually has a compound that latches onto the same receptors in the brain as some anti-anxiety meds. Then there's lemon balm. Studies have shown it can start working in as little as half an hour. And both passion flower and valerian root have been used forever to help quiet a racing mind. And now science tells us it's because they help boost those GABA levels. So as we're looking at all of these, you might be starting to see a pattern emerge, right? What's the common thread that connects so many of these fast-acting calming herbs? Yep, it's GABA. That neurotransmitter, gamma-aminobutyric acid, is pretty much the MVP of chilling out your nervous system. By making more of it available or helping it work better, these herbs basically help you press that brake pedal in your brain to slow down anxiety and racing thoughts. Okay, so we've seen how herbs can work with our brain chemistry. But what about the fuel? What are the basic raw materials our bodies need to manage stress in the first place? Well, that brings us to the foundational building blocks, the essential nutrients for a healthy stress response. And this is such an important question to ask yourself. It's totally possible that what feels like just overwhelming stress is actually being made way worse by a simple lack of some key vitamins or minerals. This table really lays out some of the key players. Magnesium, it's an absolute powerhouse, involved in over 600 processes in your body, including calming stress pathways and supporting GABA. Then you have vitamin B6, which is critical for making those calming brain chemicals. And B9 and B12 are just vital for brain health, helping protect it from the inflammation that chronic stress can cause. And it's not just about vitamins and minerals. Get this. Research is now showing that omega-3 fatty acids, the healthy fats you find in things like fish oil, can actually play a role that's a lot like an adaptogen by helping to buffer our body's inflammatory reaction to stress. And check this out. This chart brings it to life. In one study, people were put through a stress test.
The group that had been taking omega-3s had 19% lower levels of the stress hormone cortisol than the placebo group. But even more amazing, they had 33% lower levels of a key inflammation marker. That's a pretty powerful example of how nutrients can directly change our stress chemistry.
So you can see the science is moving super fast. Researchers are looking at everything from single nutrients to really complex herbal extracts, and they're piecing together a much clearer picture of how all these natural tools can support our mental health. But okay, before we all get too carried away, we have got to have a reality check. And honestly, this might be the most important part of this whole explainer. Just because something is natural does not automatically mean it's safe for every single person. This quote from a scientific paper just says it all. The fact is, because these herbal products have so many active compounds, they can interact with medications in really complex ways. We have to take that seriously. Let's just take rhodiola, which we were talking about earlier. It has the potential to interact with a whole bunch of common medications. Things for diabetes, blood pressure, immunosuppressants, even certain types of chemotherapy. Now, this isn't to scare you, but it is to make it crystal clear that these are potent substances. So, the single most crucial point is this. Please, do not try to do this yourself. It is absolutely essential to talk with a doctor or another qualified healthcare pro before you start taking any new supplement. This is non-negotiable, especially if you have any health conditions or you're on any other kind of medication. Wow, we have covered a lot, from adaptogens that help us build resilience all the way down to the nutrients that are our foundation. The goal here isn't to run out and buy a bunch of stuff. It's about being empowered with knowledge. So, I'll leave you with this question. Now that you know a little more of the science, what's one small informed step you feel like you can take to start building your own resilience to stress?
Okay, let's dive into some natural options for managing all that stress.
So, if you're feeling totally overwhelmed by modern life, you are definitely not alone. I mean, look at this. Nearly 30% of people globally are dealing with stress. It's a huge problem. So it's no wonder people are looking into natural remedies, especially this one class of plants. They're called adaptogens. They basically help your body chill. Let's look at two popular ones. Now, what's really cool is how different they are. One calms you down, the other perks you up. So how do they actually work? Well, it's all about your body's main stress control center. Essentially, adaptogens help your body manage that stress response much more efficiently. Okay, but does the science actually back this up? Let's check out the evidence. Okay, so this one study took a group of chronically stressed adults for just under a month. And wow, the results were pretty huge. The supplement group saw their stress drop by 33%. So yeah, the evidence shows these can have real benefits. But, and this is a big but, you really have to remember this quote. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's risk-free. A big part of that is because the FDA doesn't regulate supplements like they do medicines. And here's the biggest concern. They can seriously mess with other medications you might be taking. This is exactly why you absolutely have to tell your doctor about any supplements you're taking. So with all that in mind, what's the right way to go about this? Let's break it down. Seriously, these simple steps are your playbook for exploring these options safely. Think of them as just one powerful tool in your toolbox for overall well-being.